This video, I want to talk about a new location, which is really important. It's right in the middle of the Gnarley Forest. So if you have players from the Wild Coast, you have to go through here just to get to Nulb. And also it has a lot to do with a lot of activities from the slavers from the Wild Coast getting to Nulb with their loot and their slaves, and also bandits and brigand activity, and orcs. Hello, welcome back to the Three Orcs channel. This is David, and in this video we're going to cover a new location for the Temple of Elemental Evil campaign called the Verbobonc Campaign Guide 576 Common Year, which is the website that's free to use for all dungeon masters out there that wants to run the epic version campaign of the Temple of Elemental Evil module T1 through 4. The module itself from the pages turns into a dungeon slog, but in the Dungeon Master Notes section of that module, Gary Gygax stated that he expects a Dungeon Master to expand the campaign, including Nulb and Village of Hommlet and the surrounding areas. Not only flush out and create more buildings, locations, and NPCs in Nulb, but other moat house type outposts out in the world. So he originally, in his campaign, he had like 2,000 pages that of notes he never turned over to Frank. It was an air, fire, earth, and water outpost out there as well. They're collaborating with a lot of other organizations like bugbears and gnolls and hill giants and a lot of orc clans and the slavers from the Wild Coast and the Pamars and even the Scarlet Brotherhood. Hedrick, the supreme commander of the Temple of Elemental Evil Second Rising, is smart, and he's doing this right. He's trying not to tip off the forces of good like they did the first time and was put down at the Battle of Emerald Meadows. This time around, he's being much smarter. He's keeping all his activities low-key so he doesn't tip off the good guys of what's really going on. In fact, they're blaming all the disturbances and the activity in the area on the local rise of banditry on the merchant roads in the Viscounty and the Gnarley Forest. And that's what, much like what Lareth is doing at the Moat House. He's using unbeknown bandits that are clueless of who they really serve out along the merchant roads of the Viscounty, far away from the Moat House, so nobody will point fingers towards the Moat House to discover his base. And of course, the module, that's what the players are expected to do, is to find that base. And actually, Wizards of the Coast in 2015 created a module called Princess of the Apocalypse. But that module was written for Forgotten Realms, and so it has to be converted over to Greyhawk. Also, it could be used to be converted to this particular campaign, Second Rising of the Temple of Elemental Evil in 578 Common Year. And that, by the way, is currently what I'm doing. I just finished creating the module for the Village of Nulb, and that's for sale on the DM's Guild, and it's selling like crazy. Everybody's loving it. It's like 148 pages of pure lore, NPCs, organizations, charts, you name it, artwork, maps, VTT maps, and it's perfect for the campaign to really flush out Nulb. But I firmly believe that you should have more activities outside of Nulb besides that location. In fact, the players shouldn't even get to Nulb until they're at least 5th level, so you need to keep them busy. Especially if you run a slow-moving campaign like traditional Dungeons & Dragons, where it takes a while to get to 5th level. Because realistically, you can't. The typical player will get to 2nd level in the Village of Hommlet at the Moat House. That's if they survive Lareth, which they usually don't. But hopefully they run away, and Lareth will get away, and Lareth is not going to stick around once the players and the Council of Hommlet find out that Lareth is there using as his home base. He's smart. He's going to move. And the campaign for this website is fully developed with all that in mind. The logistics of the build-up, the recruitment, the activities that they're after, all the loot and the slaves being brought into Nulb and the temple forces underground. There's a secret tunnel by this hidden cabin in the woods. The people there, the gnolls and the human bandits there, are guarding it. And they're making sure that the loot and the slaves are getting down the tunnel into the temple to the different faction leaders. And so they're all up to something. And of course, if you've read the module before, you know that all these factions are attacking each other. They're trying to rise to become the #1 faction of the temple. That's their goal. And smart players can take advantage of this. In fact, there's really no way to beat this the way I wrote this up, like Nulb and the Village of Hommlet and all the quests around here, without playing the factions against each other. If you go in, headstrong and just attack it like a dungeon slug, they're going to gang up on you and slaughter you, because a lot of those NPCs that I created for Nulb are really high level. They're very powerful. And it's not just them. It's their whole organization. and other organizations that work with them. It's a very dangerous place. You got brigands and bandits and pirates and different leaders of the different cults and the Greater Temple. There's like 7 different factions within the temple itself. Nulb has another 6 factions. So there's a lot going on. Now also, depends, also something to bring up, the different dungeon masters start their campaign differently. Traditionally, you're supposed to start off just outside of the village of Hommlet, like the T1 module, hit them with bandits, gives them a clue what's going on, and then you get to the village, and then they find out more information, they find out more rumors of what's happening. All the rumors point them to the moat house. And that's basically how the T1 traditionally played out. But other ways to start this campaign, my personal campaign, or several groups I've run over the years, we start at the city of Verbobonc. And I use Living Greyhawk modules to start the campaign off with, like Noble Ambitions and the Gift of Beauty. And so the players are after that, and gives them more reasons to be in the world besides just bandits. And so it makes the campaign more engaged and exciting. Other dungeon masters will start their party in Divers, the city of free trade, and they make their way south following rumors of bandits or whatever other plot hooks that we have there for you to use, including plot hooks with the druids of the Gnarley and the Gnarley Rangers. Also, other dungeon masters start their campaign off in the Wild Coast. Joseph Block's T0 module starts you off in Narwhal on the Wild Coast, and it makes you head west along the forest road to Nulb. There's a lot of activity in his module on the way there, getting involved with one of the cults. And he does the same thing, but he uses the older traditional map, not any updated map like from Anna Meyer's maps and Living Greyhawk. And that's what my campaign does. It helps me flush the world out. And it's sort of legitimate. You know, it is Living Greyhawk, and it is Anna Meyer's maps, so you can't just say it's something that one guy made up. This is pretty much a standard now. Not that means you have to run your campaign that way. I'm just saying it's somewhat legitimate, these locations and these organizations and these NPCs. You'd be safe to think that these are lore legitimate canon with Greyhawk lore from the original box set, where it's intended for you as a dungeon master to expand the Greyhawk world. And that's what Living Greyhawk actually did. They did that for 8 years with hundreds of modules that were run at conventions from Wizards of the Coast. And a lot of these modules are really well written. Some have problems, but that's my job to weed them out, and that's what we have our Three Orcs Discord for. There's a lot of people on our Discord that's been running this module since the 80s. A lot of them written for Dragon Magazine, Poly Magazine, and Living Greyhawk. And so they have a lot of experience with this material, and they help write these locations and bring them up. I'm getting experts from all around this area helping out with the lore and things. And so you're more than welcome to join us there and help collaborate and work with it, or just give your thoughts on what we're doing. And because often during the day I work on this daily, and I ask people in the comments section, what do you guys think of this? What do you think of this character? What do you think of this location? Does this work? Does this make sense? And people will comment on it, and people will come up with their own ideas too, or they'll find edits I need to make, and I'll immediately make those edits while I'm there. And so it's a lot of collaboration going on. For this video, I want to talk about a new location, which is really important. It's right in the middle of the Gnarley Forest. So if you have players from the Wild Coast, you have to go through here just to get to Nulb. And also it has a lot to do with a lot of activities from the slavers from the Wild Coast getting to Nulb with their loot and their slaves, and also bandits and brigand activity, and orcs. What we're talking about here is the village called Oakvein. It's the capital of Clan Enlanefel, which is the southernmost Elven clans of the Gnarley Forest, with strong ties to Selene. Your players, or bad guys traveling through here to support the Temple of Elemental Evil, has to pass through their lands. That main merchant road passes through their lands. So I felt it's a great need for a dungeon master out there to make sure that that's accounted for, because the only information until now in Living Greyhawk for this clan was like a paragraph. Not enough information really to draw from, unless you just spontaneously make this stuff up. Well, we went ahead and did that for you. We all got together, the people that were originally author of some of these articles, and we created Clan Enlanefel. Hologant from Australia, he originally wrote some of this stuff before for Living Greyhawk. He helped flush out Clan Enlanefel. He sent me his articles, and I went ahead and I rewrote them and added artwork and expanded it greatly. So let's go ahead and take a look at that, and I think you'll really like what you see to help you bring your campaign more to life. Okay. So this is the splash screen of the Verbobonc Campaign Guide 576 Common Year. Now, this is a public-facing website you can use at your table while you're running the game. And I make sure I write the articles in a succinct, bulletproof format for you to be easily referenceable at the table. And on the front splash screen is the interactive map of the Viscounty, and Clan Enlanefel is right here on the screen. But I want to go ahead and scroll down to the table of contents. On the table of contents, if you go down to the Atlas and the Forest and Gnarley Forest, there's Oakvein. So we'll go ahead and click on Oakvein here and take a look at it. So this is the main screen, the main splash screen, the main article for Oakvein. And there's also a main article for the clan too. That's an organizational article. This is the article for the location. So I make sure everything's really highly organized in this campaign. So this is the Sacred Heart of Clan Enlanefel, the living soul of the southern Gnarley, hidden where the Gnarley Forest begins to bleed into Welkwood. So it's right on the border. The great tree Oakvein stands both as a sanctuary and a sanctum, nearly 240 feet high into the sky. Its branches home to mystics and magi and seers and spirits. More than a village or a city, it's a living monument to elven kind. So this is a really interesting place. It draws a lot of inspiration from Lord of the Rings, of course, because it has the same kind of ideas there. On the right-hand side is more statistics in bullet point format. On the left is more of the narration, the location and the geography. It also mentions the towering oaks and the declus and the ips and the roanwoods, the kind of trees that are there, and a little bit of a description of them. The history and the lore is interesting because it was grown from magical acorns that came from the grandfather oak in Arvindor. Oakvein is thought to have existed since before written history, predating even Elven calendars and even the migrations of the Seldarin, chosen to Orth. Some sages whisper that it was once one of the first trees to awaken with true sentience. It's a gift from Corlone Larathane, the god of the elves. It was given shape by the dreams of the druids long vanished. It long served as a place for refuge, memory, and dreaming. In the times of the Sul Wars and the Flan desolations, the Loremasters of Oakvein recorded the turning of the ages through living memory gems, echo paintings, and arcane dream vaults stored in its core. Now, another section is on government and leadership, and I made a chart for the Loremasters. And each Loremaster is fully developed with their own articles. And if you put your cursor over their names, a sub-article will pop up of who they are, and you can cycle through it. But that's not the full article. You have to click on it to get to the full articles. But I figured a quick chart would be very helpful. On the right-hand side is inhabitants and defenders, the demographics of most of the denizens there. The function and terms here talk about how the Loremasters serve indefinitely, but often step down after decades to return to their studies. Many have served multiple terms across the centuries. Council decisions are made by consensus. However, Falk and Nurun hold the strongest sway. And there's key locations. So I created a location for each Loremaster in this small village. Now, location 1 is the Ethurum Hall, and that's a linkable article too. Totally separate article with flavor text to read to your players what it looks like when they first get there. And it's a full article with artwork and everything you need, and we'll look at that in a moment. And of course, the associated Loremaster is Nerun. The associated Loremaster is Neron, and he has his own article for the NPC character. And then the location 2 is the Moonspire Sanctum, another article. And location 3 is the Hollow, 4 is the Spire, 5 is the Hall of Timeless Echoes, and with another Loremaster. Each of these locations have their own Loremaster. And then the 6th one is the Stone of Echoes. Wonderful artwork. Now, there's also additional communal and spiritual spaces. There's the Pale Branch, the Dreamwalk, cultural and political influence. It talks about the different clans and how they interact. And Selene, they regard Oakvein as sacrosanct, protected in spirit, if not by law. Verbobonc diplomats, like the Council of Lords, have sought private audiences with the Loremasters during times of crisis. Oakvein is much a temple of the Seldarin as it is a seat of governance and learning. Religion is not confined to the halls or the shrines, but it's infused in the very air, the root paths, and the dreams of its people. So I do go into quite a bit of lore here. And then the next section is a breakdown briefly of each of the Loremasters, and they also are clickable links to get to their articles. Just a quick bulletproof section of the Loremasters. If you don't have time to go to their full article, it's here on the main page. And then at the very bottom is important. It's the current concerns in 576 Common Year. And this is going to help a Dungeon Master running this campaign. Because you'll see by looking at this, it does have relevance in your campaign, depending on what you do with it. So Oakvein's Watchers have reported increased activity from bandits, humanoids, and cultists traveling northward through the Welkwood towards the Gnarley. So that's a rumor, right? Though elves suspect these invaders target trade along the Wild Road. That's the name of the road that goes from Narwhal in the Wild Coast to Nulb. It was labeled the Wild Road, and I need to change that on the map for you guys. In fact, let's look at the map real quick before I continue any further. So here you go. That's the clan at the bottom here. So that article is for the clan, and this article is for Oakvein. So this road runs past Oakvein through the clan, through the lands of the two clans here, through Humming's End, which is a halfling, which I believe is a halfling village that still needs to be filled out, and I got somebody volunteering to do that. And then the road finally takes you to Hommlet, or you can split south and go to Sheernobb, then Ostverk, and then down to Selene if you want. So this is important because bandits and merchants travel up and down this road to Hommlet. And rumors that any tavern in any of these villages could lead the party to look into this. And so if they get into this area, they might have interaction with the clans. Or one of the party members might be Elven, and he might choose to be from one of these clans. This campaign could be from one of these clans, or he could come from Selene, the fairy kingdom, or he could come from the city of Verbobonc, the Elven quarter, or there's another Elven community up here in the Iron Forest, somewhere in here that I haven't filled out yet. So there's a bunch of locations a pure elf could be from. A half-elf can be from almost anywhere because they settle in human settlements all the time. But let's go ahead and take a look back at the article again. Here I do point out that the elves suspect these invaders target trade along the Wild Road. They remain unaware of the resurgence, the second rising of the Temple of Elemental Evil. So they don't know about it yet. They just know about the bandits and troop movements, humanoid troop movements like orcs. That's all they know. They don't know why. They just think it's more raiding. The effect is damage to elven settlements and defilement of sacred sites. Their response is Fealunith has begun moon fasting. Cinreal has intensified Lee pulse monitoring. Their disposition is a growing mistrust towards humans. Hawks have been dispatched to watch over Hommlet, Ostverk, and Sheernobb. So these hawks could be noticed by the players in these locations. So that might gain their interest, especially if a player is a druid or a ranger. Adventuring hooks. A Kera was stolen. Its memory has been corrupted. A dream sickness from the Feywild affects the druids near the Jewel River, which is south. Loremaster Nemoy seeks a solution, so he's a quest giver. A sealed artifact Loremaster Nirin once helped restore may have been reactivated by cultists. Loremaster Cinreal requests escort to a dying leyline in the Wild Verge. That's a section of the Gnarley Forest. You can see the map on the Gnarley Forest or the Gnarley Ranger article. The death echoes were spreading. Loremaster Fealunith sends a vision to a PC. The branch breaks, the root weeps fire. So right there is a good plot point to give to a druid or a ranger. Get their attention. Okay, so and now more about the patrol activity there in the Wild Verge in the Gnarley Forest. To begin with, there's an Elven detachment. Clan Enlanefel, reclusive and contemplative by nature, rarely interferes with human movement through their lands. So, human merchants going through their lands are not going to really pay attention to them. The Wild Road, the ancient east-west forest track that winds between the Wild Coast and Verbobonc, cuts through the southeastern edge of their lands, but the elves do not claim ownership of the road itself. Traditionally, they see themselves as stewards of the forest, not keepers of trade routes. While they allow merchants, pilgrims, and travelers to pass unchallenged, they Their presence remain unseen. Their eyes are vigilant from brush and bow, always watching for signs of corruption, defilement, and spiritual threat. Basically, you're never going to see these elf patrols unless somebody does something really stupid like catch the forest on fire, and then all of a sudden they're going to be there because they've been watching. Or they try to chop down a tree. This is their response to merchant activity and bandit raids. So even though they permit merchant trade, they keep meticulous records. They use birds, magical mirrors, and whispering stones to track patterns and subtle inconsistencies. Over the past year, their seers and Loremasters have observed disturbing shifts. So this is what they observed. Merchant caravans moving with unusual haste and heavily armed escorts. Bandit ambushes avoid looting coin, instead targeting herbs, weapons, tools, and people. Residual elemental taint of 2 recent attacks was detected by Loremaster Sinriel. The typical Elven response to this? Non-intervention, they track raiders, they rarely engage unless a sacred site is threatened. Silent shadowing, they may follow a caravan under threat, intervening only in dire moments, like the last moment they come to the rescue. Dream flagging, victims of raids may receive visions in their sleep from the 2 Loremasters, warning them of deeper dangers, so they could get warned. Clerical reports, Loremaster Leon has begun documenting recurring sigils and altar stone patterns found near their ambush sites. Now there's a growing suspicion of Nulb and the cultic revival. The village of Nulb, long regarded by the elves as a mire of blood and rootless men, has fallen under heightened scrutiny, though these elves do not patrol west beyond the old ruins where the Temple of Elemental is sealed. Strange signs have begun to reappear. Ghost owls no longer fly near Nulb. Leyline pulses show a growing void west of the river near the temple ruins. Captured bandits, interrogated by the elven seers, then released, mutter something about a black mouth beneath a stone. Still, the council Loremasters remain divided. Many believe this is merely the echo of the last war. A broken cult flickering out is possible. It's very reasonable that there is a splinter cult out there after the war that are in hiding, and they're trying to rise in power through these activities. But there's no reason to believe that the actual full Temple of Elemental Evil is on the rise again. Not at this time. That's what the players are for. Others, like Avenor and Sinriel, fear something more, that their binding spells placed over the temple have weakened, and the Elemental Evil has found new servants in the shadows. So I made another chart for you, the current policies of the Loremasters to help you, and then adventure hooks for the PCs, like an elf scout got missing, the caravan bearing sealed relics vanished, a player witnesses a raid, the mouth beneath the black oak. Alright, so in the top right hand corner again, we got some artwork of what the place, we have some artwork of what the tree looks like and its inhabitants. And on the right, I created this territorial zone, the primary patrol zone, the secondary observation zones, the patrol frequencies, rules of engagement with human activity. I kind of spelled that all out with you with some dialogue too, quotes. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Ethereum Hall. Now, this is an interesting location. I start off with flavor text of what it looks like, so you can read to the players when they first get there. Or it doesn't have to be read verbatim, but it's useful for the Dungeon Master. So we have an introduction with this place is like, the history and lore, the functions and role in the clan. It's all spelled out for you. The activities and the features there. And on the right-hand side is not only the Loremaster himself, but I also created 3 more NPCs for this location in case you need it, that serve functions within this location of Oakvein. And so this is a very interesting location. So let's go back to Oakvein here, and we'll go to next. And we'll go ahead and get to the next location called Etherealite Spire. Now you can read along with this. I'm not going to read all this stuff verbatim to you because you can easily read this yourself at your leisure. I just want to point it out. I just want to point out to you that it exists and give you some comments. So this is another wonderful location of Oakvein with flavor text, dialogue, quotes, history, lore, functions, key features, adventure hooks, which might give you some good ideas for your campaign. On the right-hand side is the Loremaster himself, and also 2 more NPCs here that don't have their own articles. Sub-NPCs I usually don't create separate articles for. I only do it for more important figures that will have anything to do with quest or campaign, plots and stuff like that. So let's go back to Oakvein. And the third location is the Hall of Timeless Echoes. Now this place is cool too. It's a sanctum of memory, song, and the Elven soul. And it's basically an archive, like a library, and it's really interesting. It's not just books. So it's got functions and features and different key features and spaces in this chamber. And it talks about the ceremonies and more adventure hooks. Can't have enough adventure hooks. On the right hand side is the key figures, the Loremaster himself, and then 2 more NPCs I added to flush this location out for your use. So, like I said before, an elf player could be from here. And maybe Leon was his Loremaster that taught him to become first level. So he would know these people. He would know these elves. He would have a relationship with them as his background. So what's great about having an engaging background is because a player can take advantage of that in the campaign. They can return here. They can get information, get training, get gear, get resed maybe, to rest. There's a lot of reasons why a player would come back to their master's location where they were born or where they were trained at for a lot of these different reasons in a campaign. So the players feel like they have more agency that way. They have more power. They have a location and characters that has their back. And it's a really good feeling as a player to feel like you have more going on besides what's on your character sheet. So let's go back to Oakvein again. The next location is, let's see, the Moonspire Sanctum. The Moonspire Sanctum is pretty cool. It's got everything, again. I added 2 more NPCs to this location. There's this massive crystal here, and it's part of the triple lunar alignment thing going on. They have a transition chamber. It's got a lot of functions, mostly divine rites and soul of passage and screen and dream scrying and vision circles, that kind of thing. So it's pretty interesting. I didn't put any plot hooks here, but there's a lot of information on lore here you can use in your campaign. The next one is the Stone of Echoes. The Stone of Echoes is a hall of burnt memory and bound vigilance. So this is more deep underground underneath the tree. And it's basically a memory location. Avenor, the Vigil Keeper, is the Loremaster here with 2 more NPCs for you to use. He basically preserves the cultic and martial memory of the clan, binding ward maintenance, memory watch rites. The key features here are quite a bit in his sacred duties. And also this time I added more adventure hooks. Basically things happened and hopefully the players can help out, including Vecna is involved. And of course Vecna has his own articles too. My whole website is pretty expansive. So let's go back to Oakvein. The next location is the Verdant Root Hollow. Verdant Root is also a pond that's deep underground underneath the tree. And it's a rooted sanctum of Sinriel, the Warden of Lee and Life. He basically monitors the leylines. It's a sanctuary of balance and breath. Everything you need to know about the history, lore, and functions and features and spaces here. It's pretty interesting. I also gave you 3 plot hooks to use in your campaign. There's something that might be happening, like with the elemental evil influence. So you might seek out the party for help about the leyline. That's a problem there. And then, of course, you have the extra NPCs here besides him. So it's pretty cool. All right, let's go back to the main article here. And sure enough, that is all the locations here. I could have created more locations, but I think this is enough for now. Unless you as a Dungeon Master require more, you want something more flushed out, let me know. Now let's go ahead and take a look at some of these characters. So Avenor, he's the Loremaster of the Broken Empires. He's got I got dialogue and quotes here to help you bring him to life. His role, appearance, and bearing, and background, his personality, beliefs, his magical abilities, his political and religious influence, his current concerns. Now, this is probably the most important part of whether or not you need to use this lore for your campaign or not, because this directly involves the Temple of Elemental Evil. Any current concerns? He believes the return of the cult activity in Nulb along the Wild Verge is not merely chaotic, it follows its ancient Urflane ley sequence theory. It used to weaken divine borders between the major summoning. He suspects this is not a new cult, but a revival, and that elements of the Temple of Elemental Evil are being used to hide Vecnan resurgence. That's what he thinks. So he wants you to investigate all this stuff down here. So that's what he's worried about. So that's kind of cool. It might be like a wild goose chase, but it's interesting. Or it might not be. There's Dungeon Masters that are combining Vecna stuff with this campaign, by the way. And they're on our Discord talking about it. I don't do that in my campaign, but it's a really good idea. Okay, so the next person we're going to look at is Leon. Leon, he's this old elf, and he's the timeless threshold. He's a cleric of Labalas and Noreth, scholar of Arvindor's mystery. So he's great. He's got wonderful quotes. He's 11th level cleric, a 5th level wizard. Everything you need to know about him, including the very bottom, which is the most important part, right? Oh, by the way, I added relationships with the other Loremasters. So this is what they think of each other, which could be useful for role-playing. So some of them kind of not agree with everything, or they have different concerns, and this spells it out for you. I did this for every article, so that way you can correlate how they think, how they act to each other, their actions, and what they do. Basically, this section correlates their attitude and relationships with each other. That could be useful in your role playing. And then down at the bottom is the current concerns, of course. He's grown concerned by the disrupted bindings of ancient elf-warded sites in the Welkwood and northern Gnarley. He believes someone is breaking planar prohibitions, unsealing old pacts made during the first wars against the Elder Elemental God. So there's signs you've noticed. There's signs that he's noticed, like missing glyph stones at the ruins of Wildgrove, ghosts of pack-bound guardians no longer answer their rituals, faint tremors around long-buried planar prisons. His hypothesis is that the cult of elemental evil may be targeting ancient elven seals to release planar entities once bound by the Seldarin. So this stuff gets deep. I didn't expand it beyond that. I could, but no Dungeon Master has requested that. I only go as far as you want, but I stop at a certain point because my website's already too big. It's already got too much lore, and it's overwhelming for a lot of people out there, especially DMs that just like to wing it. This is a good example of DMs that like to wing it. This is what I have a problem with. Winging a campaign's fine. If you're running just a fun dungeon, like Old School Essentials module, the Hole in the Oak or something, or the B2 module, you can wing that and have fun, sure. But we're talking about this grand, epic campaign of the Temple of Elemental Evil with steep lore, all the lore of the World of Greyhawk that goes back over 45 years. This is epic. You go at the end of this, you're meeting gods. You're killing gods. You're imprisoning them. This is huge. It's a world-shaking event. This is a major campaign. There's no way you can complete this campaign in under 2 years. This is a major campaign. This is not winging it. There's no way a DM's going to be able to wing this or going beyond this information right here. It's just too much. It's too deep. It's just serious writing of an author to be able to figure this out. You can't wing that at the table. I don't have anything against it. I'm just saying this is not the campaign for it. You can try, but I don't think you'll be very successful doing it. Okay. The next Loremaster is Nerun. He's a Loremaster, Mage Artisan of the Gnarley. So he's a 9th level cleric of Carolone and a 12th level wizard, Artifice, neutral good. He's only 688 years old. And his role, his background, his personality, everything you need to know about his relationships and all that stuff. Again, his current concerns. This has direct effect. This has direct concern about the campaign, whether you use him or not. Nerun has grown increasingly alarmed by rumors of raided tombs and stolen relics from the old Cairn Hills and the Wild Verge, which is the central part of the Gnarley Forest. He suspects a growing underground market for magical artifacts, possibly manipulated by the cultist. Though unaware of the reawakening of the Temple of Elemental Evil, he begins to quietly investigate, scrying on known relic smugglers and seeking patterns. Relic theft, alarmed by desecrations in sacred ruins. Cult activity, believes artifact theft is coordinated, possibly maybe from elemental cults. Protective measures, he crafts this ward of forgetting, found in key Enlanefel sites to prevent discovery. So that's what is going on with him. So that's kind of interesting. The next one is Unreal. She is the Warden of the Root and Stone. She's the High Druid of Clan Enlanefel. She's an 18th level elf druid and neutral good and 489 years old. She's a High Druid, and she's a leyline guardian and a quest giver. So everything you need to know about her is here. And if you scroll down to the bottom again, past all this relationship stuff, you got the current concerns. He sensed the elemental unrest stirring beneath the Welkwood verge, and believes the leyline grid is being twisted. As if something is drawing power in unnatural channels. Though unaware of the second temple of elemental evil, she fears that someone is tapping into the elemental nodes. Gee, I wonder who's that. The act that could disrupt the entire magical balance of the Gnarley, Sus, and Welkwood. Ley instability, disturbances traced near ancient cairns once sealed by druids. Elemental signs, water flowing backwards, tree weeping amber, birds singing in reverse at twilight. Proposed, you like what I come up with? Proposed solution, a ritual to anchor the ley line. But she needs a team to recover 3 missing Gyagases lost during the time of the Sulbeck Lunas War. I did a lot of searching for words like that, accurate and cool. They give this a lot of depth and background to it. So that's another wonderful character here at this one location of Oakvein. Then finally, let's go ahead and look at the Loremaster, the ultimate Loremaster himself. He's the Loremaster of the Moon-Sealed Path, the elder voice of Oakvein. He's 713 years old. He's a 10th level sorcerer and a 13th level cleric of Sahanine Moonbow. And another cool character. And of course, all my gods have all new holy symbols on my website. Because not only do some of those holy symbols are lackluster or accurate, there's a lot of gods with missing holy symbols. So I created all of them for you guys. Like most of them, some might need to be redone. If you guys want to point them out, let me know. I also gave the clan their own symbol too, by the way. So this symbol can be on their cloaks or their clothing. That way they can be recognizable without talking. I did give him a stat block right down here. This is a 5e stat block, by the way. And as you can see, it's pretty powerful. It's a big stat block. It uses so much room on the website. Look, it keeps going down, on and on. He's a challenge rating of 14. He is worth 11,500 experience points. Okay, so the current concerns of 576 common year. He has foreseen a shadowed flame moving northward, likely tied to the recent rise in humanoids and bandits in the Wild Verge, disturbing Enlanefel lands. Though she does not yet know the second temple of the elemental evil rising, her visions grow more disturbed with each moonrise. So she has visionary disturbances, divination focus, and disposition towards outsiders. She's increasingly cautious with prophetic warnings of betrayal cloaked in friendship. And that's the last of the NPCs that I fleshed out for this location. So let's go ahead and take a look at their clan. It's basically a time for me to recap what I did all week, all the articles I created or edited, all the thoughts I've been having. Also, I have guests that come on to talk about their campaign or ask questions about the campaign. These Dungeon Masters, I like these Dungeon Masters to come on and talk about their campaign and explain what they're doing in their campaign. I like to hear different versions of the campaign, just their stories and what their players have done, because we can all learn from it. You know, they have different ideas too. And I like to hear what's going on with them or what their needs are, what their interests are. So I like to have guests. If you want to be a guest on the channel, please reach out to me on the Discord or the Patreon so we can talk about your campaign and talk about the campaign in general for everybody. So this is the clan article I wrote, which is an organizational article for these group of elves. And I created their symbol there. And basically it just breaks down everything you need to know about the clan, as you can see, into great exhaustive detail. It basically talks about their territories, geography, social and culture, their government, religion, relationships with the other factions out there, the economic system, which is 2. One's interior, one's exterior with others outside their clan. So I put more current concerns for the clan as a whole here, which talks about basically the elves and the bandits and brigands and slavers. The clan has begun discussing greater involvement with forest patrols, consulting their Fey allies and Loremasters to uncover the source of these disruptions, a source of a quest for the players, because they want help. So this is a reason why an elf player from here would come to the Viscounty, because they're looking for these kind of answers, and they'll send one of their own. You know, the Loremaster himself's not going to go. He's going to send one of his up-and-coming bright rising star, like Lareth. I'm going to send Lareth out there for the Greater Temple of Elemental Evil into the Moe House. So important details for Dungeon Masters. Now, I made a chart. I know you guys love charts. So this is all the Loremasters here. and what do they think of each other. So that's kind of useful. It's a correlated chart there, and how to use it, and side quests. On the right-hand side is basically a rundown of more adventures for you. So the Blood Trail of the Verge. That's a bunch of bandit bodies are found skewered to the trees with stakes with elven arrows in them. So there's a good encounter there. Or the Moonlit Accord. The elven city of Anstead seeks to unite the Gnarley clans, but the Loremasters of Oakvein are reluctant to do that. The party has been asked to escort a seer through the disputed forest path being hunted by humanoid scouts. Number 3, Echoes from Oakvein, Strange Dreams. 4, The Thorned Pact, Fey Allies, A Silent War. And I gave you some DM tips down here. So this is a lot. This is what I did last week. I created all these articles and artwork. And with the help of the Three Orcs guys. This wraps up this video review of this location in the Gnarley Forest. I think this is a great location for the sandbox version of the Temple of Elemental Evil campaign, because it involves, it's like connect the dots. You know, you connect all the villages and make sure they're fully keyed like the village of Hommlet is, and Nulb is now. I developed most of these locations already, and I'm spreading out like an onion. I'm going further out into the forest, into the wild coast, up to divers, and creating these villages and trying to create maps for them too, for the players to be from or travel through. So that way it'll be truly like EverQuest, where wherever you go is fully flushed out with NPCs and shops and buildings and organizations and leaders and things like that. So that way the players can get involved. Because the main reason for all these quests is not only to bring the world to life and make it more engaging and real and develop relationships with all these characters out there, but also to get your players up levels, to make sure they reach at least 5th level before they actually tackle the actual Temple of Elemental Evil. And it's also a way to create more of a sleuth type atmosphere where they really don't know what's going on behind this organized banditry that's on the rise lately. And so they're discovering this, finding out who's behind it and what the stakes are. Because it's more than just the Temple of Elemental Evil going on here. It's also nobles and Verbobonc and divers. There's also the Scarlet Brotherhood. There's also the Slavers of the Wild Coast. There's a lot of groups out there and humanoid bands that are up to no good. So the players probably want to get to the bottom of all this. And it's going to be a lot of fun doing that. There's more dungeons. Right now, since I finished Nulb and I just wrapped up Twilight Falls, I decided that while other dungeon masters are working on more villages in the Gnarley and in the Wild Forest, I decided I'm going to go ahead and start working on the first module. The first module is going to be one of the moat house type locations, outpost for the Earth Temple, Romog. So Romog has an outpost out there like the moat house, but this is an abandoned monastery, and it's in the Cron Hills. This is where the raids come from the Earth. They're the ones that took the Gift of Beauty. So if you have them chasing that module down, trying to retrieve that gift, it's going to lead them to this abandoned monastery up in the Cron Hills. I'm going to recreate that dungeon for Greyhawk, because it's really originally written for Forgotten Realms, so it has to be totally rewritten with new characters. And I also have to make a new map. The map that they offered in that module isn't that good. So that's what I decided to start working on as of tomorrow, because I know you guys are looking for that. Then I'll probably go to the fire outpost next, and then the water outpost, and then the air. The air is already kind of half, a small air temple outpost is already done. In the side quest of Hommlet module, I actually added one there, and some dungeon masters actually used that encounter already. They said they had a blast using it in their campaign. So maybe that will be it for the air temple. In the module for Princess of the Apocalypse, their air temple outpost is a tower, and their priests are riding around on vultures, giant vultures. So I don't know. Well, I'll think about that when I get there. First, right now, I'm going to focus on the Earth Elemental Temple, and I think you guys are going to love that. Okay, well, like I said, you're more than welcome to come to the Three Orcs Patreon to support the project there. If you're there, you can get access to all the artwork and maps there. If you want a higher resolution version of that stuff, you have to become a member. Also, you're more than welcome to come to the Three Orcs Discord channel to help out, or just listen in, give your comments, or actually collaborate and help out write these articles and help develop it. You'll be greatly appreciated, because we need all the help we can get so we can expand fast, because I'm trying to keep up with all your campaigns that are running right now, and I know you guys need this stuff now. So that's why I'm trying to rush this stuff out to get it done. And I know a lot of the Dungeon Masters are really happy with some of the stuff I created already, and they want more.
Did you enjoy video? Consider tossing support on my Patreon. It's best way to support orcs. If you would like to see more content, subscribe and post comments below. It better not be bad.
Well, I hope you liked this video. I hope it answered all your questions about this new location in the middle of the Gnarley Forest. And I hope your players enjoy your campaign as much as mine have over the years. And may your dice ever roll true.